Hi bead friends, I'm back with a new tutorial. Today we will continue our adventure in the bead weaving world using Miyuki beads. Miyuki beads are precision glass seed beads made in Japan. Today we will learn how to make these fringe earrings that I've called Willow because they remind me of a weeping willow. To make the earrings we will use brick stitch for the triangle and fringe stitch for the fringe. The materials that you will need today are needles in size 10, beading needles obviously, and then we will be using 2 strings to obtain the best results for today's project. So you will need KO beading thread nylon, like this, that we will use for the fringe. And then if you have it at home, I suggest Fireline size 0.006 inches to make the triangle in brick stitch. If you have to buy the thread, buy at least the KO that you can use both for the triangle and the fringe, but best results will come out using both threads. If you need to purchase the Fireline, we have both the small size and the medium size. If you want to try out with the mini size, which is more than enough to make as many earrings as you like. So this is the best option. So for today's project, you will also need 4 colors of Delica size 11 cylinder beads for Miyuki. So size 11, 4 colors, 3 grams for each color. And I've actually used the new rainbow glaze colors that we've just received in this version of the earrings, which I've made in the previous tutorial for the Italian version, so you can have a look at that. I'll give you the codes of the colors that I've used. So I've used Champagne Duracoat DB1834, and then I've used in the new colors the DB2313, which is a bluish gray, greenish. It's really a cool color because all of these colors kind of fade in between, so they're not all the same color throughout the beads, but they're actually toned differently so that the color results more rich. And then the other 2 colors that I've used of the same line is DB2309 in the olive green and DB2315 in the light blue. And I love the effect with the champagne because it really makes these colors pop. Then I've made another version of the kits using the previous line of Miyuki Delicas, which are the Duracoat Metallics. And I've put them together with this light peach, again, Duracoat. And I love the effect again here where we switch it around and we use all the metallic for the fringe, and for the triangle we use a Duracoat Opaque. Then I've used a third kit that we will be making together today in bronze, and it's bronze with a deep red, a glazed pink, and a deep purple, and I like this effect as well. It's kind of a richer. And then I've actually made a 4th kit that you will find on the shop, which is all in the shades of purple. I'm loving purple. Have you seen the new color for the Pantone of this year, which is very Perry? Love it. And I've actually sold them yesterday, so you can actually see the earrings in the tutorial in the Italian version, and you can find the kits on the store, but I don't have the earrings to show you today because I didn't have time to make them again. So I'll probably make something else. So going back to the materials, I've said 4 colors of Delica cylinder beads, 3 grams each. Then you will need 1 gram more or less of round size 15 Miyuki beads to make the round hook to attach your clasp. And then you will need 2 hook clasps for earrings. And then lastly, scissors. And that's all you'll need for today's project. To begin, take out just the color of Delica cylinder beads that you're going to use for your triangle. It should be a color that makes the others pop out in your fringe, so it should be very different from the others so that it kind of separates them in the fringe later on. I've actually taken out my gigantic hammer beads that will be able to show you better how to realize the triangle, which is what we're going to do right now with our brick stitch. Cut 23 inches of Fireline thread and thread your needle on it. To begin, we will need to create the base of our triangle with our ladder stitch. So we will be actually using ladder stitch for the beginning of this triangle. So stitch on the thread 2 beads, have them go at the end of your thread, leave more or less 4 inches of thread for your tail, like this, and then go through from your tail just the first bead, so that you're going in a circle, and you have your 2 beads going right next to each other. Now to secure this, because you have to have a firm base, we're going to retrieve our steps and secure it in place. So go back through the second bead, and it's very important that you respect the direction of your thread. So my thread right now is coming out from under the second bead, so I'll go back from the bottom to the top through the first bead. See how it's going around in circle, and I'm respecting the direction of the thread. And now my steps are nice and tight, and now I need to add an extra step. These are the first 2 steps of our ladder that we're constructing. So we're actually going to go through again the second bead, because to add a new step, you always have to have your thread coming out from the last bead you've added. So in this case, it's the second. Then to add a step, we actually add a bead, just 1, go back through the bead that you've begun, and obviously from the opposite side. So my thread is coming down, so I take it from the top and go through. Pull tightly. It's important that you don't have space in between these beads, and that the beads are not diagonal, but they're nice and firm, one against the other, like little soldiers. So again, we have to go through the beads that we've just added and the previous one to secure this step. And then we go through the third bead again that we've just added to be able to add another step. So we pick up, in total we need 7 beads for our ladder. Here you go. Fringe earrings are always constructed on a triangle that starts off with an odd number of beads, because you want to be able to create the point for your triangle. So you need an odd number. Go through. See how I'm just constructing the ladder like I've done? So I keep adding 1 bead at a time, going through the previous bead to attach it, and then going back through it to be sure that I've reinforced it and attached it correctly, nice and firmly, before adding the next one. So see, this is what we don't want. So you have to pull when you see it, because don't go and add extra steps until your beads are nice and tight between each other. The straighter the beads, the easier your triangle will come, and the better it will come once you start adding other beads in rows. So I've got 5, add the 6. And 7th. Keep taking things up with my needle. Here you go. So we have our base. You can see that there's 7. And that's our base done. I have to come out the 7th one. Here you go. Okay, this is the easy part. Now we start constructing with brick stitch. So to make brick stitch, first of all, we want to start off not from the last bead, but from the previous one. So we go back through it. And when constructing in brick stitch, we always want our thread pointing away from us. So I'll switch around the work so that I'm building from bottom to top. And then to begin brick stitch, we have to pick up 2 beads, have them go on the thread, and then brick stitch is stitching the beads in between the thread that passes between beads. So we won't be passing through the bases of the beads again. We will be passing with our needle. Let me focus. Here you go. We will be passing with the needle under the thread that passes between the two beads. And obviously, because my thread is coming out this bead, we want to go through the thread that connects the second and third bead. So through, pull. Your beads already go into place. To finish the stitch, you have to go through the second bead that you added from the bottom to the top to bring your thread back through the top, ready to stitch another bead. There you go. Pull tight. And then we continue with brick stitch, but this time, once you've started the row, you keep adding beads just one at a time. So one bead, go through the bridge of the thread that goes through the next two beads, just the bridge of the thread, pull, and then take the bead from under and come out on top with the thread. And there you go, I've added another bead. Now, if my previous row, the base row, was made of 7 beads, we want the second row to be made of 6 beads because our triangle has to lose a bead every row to be able to be in the shape of a triangle. And by starting off in the second bead, I've already lost a bead or half a bead on that side. So you'll see that the 6 beads will be perfectly positioned on top of the 7th. The 7, sorry, not 7th. Here you go. Back through, pull, and through. And as you can see, I finished the row, don't have any more places where I can attach a bead, and I've attached exactly 6 beads, and that's my second row finished. Now, we have to start another row. This time it will be 5 beads, but again, the placement from where we start our row is important. We don't want to start off from the bead that we finished. We want to start off from the second bead like we've done before, but this time, to be able to come out of this bead from the top, we will have to go around with the string to be able to come out the correct way. So we go through the needle from the top to the bottom through this bead, the one next to the one where we're coming out. It's the 5th bead of the row, like this. Pull. Thread is here. We have to go down the bead next to the one we're coming out from, and it will be a base bead. There you go. And then we want to switch the direction of our thread because our thread is down here coming out from the bottom. So we want to go back up through the bead that is right next to it. We're going to go in this direction because we're trying to come to this bead. So we don't want to go over here because it's too far away. So we go on the left side. Pull. And then we go out from the top. And that's it. We're ready to start a new row. So again, each row is started by adding 2 beads. Go through the thread that connects the 2 beads on the left side. Here you go. And you go through just the second bead that you've added. So we're making the same row as before. So add another 3 beads and I'll see you at the end of this row. I've finished my second row, or third row if you're counting the base. And as you can see, I have 5 beads. I've finished the space where I can attach a bead, so I'm sure of what I've done. And now we have to go around again to switch the direction of the thread and be able to come out from this bead, but from top. So I go back down the bead, under, again, on one of the 2 beads next to the bead that we want to come out from. I switch around so I don't have to go to the base to be able to switch the direction. I just can go back through this one, the one next to where I came out. And then I come back out the bead that I want to start the row at. As you've noticed, probably, the rows are constructed first left, right to left, and then back through. Now I'm left-handed, so I tend to start off in the opposite direction if to the ones that are actually right hand. So I usually start right to left, and then I start working in brick stitch from left to right. You'll probably have done the opposite. Don't worry, it's completely normal. I'm left-handed, can't help it. Okay, and we start off a new row, adding 2 beads. Go under the thread that comes out between the second and third bead from the row. Go back through the bead, the second one that we've added, and then continue adding beads. And this time the row will be made up of 4 beads. And again, at the end of this row, we don't have any more space to add other beads, so we're sure of the number that we've added, and we have to once again go around our thread. It's always kind of the same concept, different beads, but the concept is the same. Come out on top from the second bead, ready to construct another row with adding 2 beads. Obviously, if our previous row is made up of 4 beads, this time we will be adding only 3 beads. So the first 2 together, and then the last one by itself. There you go. Now, last bead in that last row, because we're actually not going to finish with just 1 bead, but we're going to finish with 2 beads as the last row for our triangle. Have to go around again with the string, come out the center bead, there you go, and add 2 beads together. There you go. So we finished, and we're going to have to secure this bead, which is actually not attached to the rest of the triangle, but just to the one on the side. So we're going to go through the bead we've added in the last row, through the bead under it in the previous row, kind of like what we do to come out to start a new row. Go back, switch the direction, go back through the other bead on the previous row, and come out on the bead that we want to actually secure. There you go. Now it's nice and secure on the rest, and we can think about adding our hook finding. So we will need actually our size 15 micro beads. So take out your micro 15 beads, add 4 beads to your string, then pass through the ring of your hook finding for earrings, add another 3 beads of these small ones. Obviously mine are much bigger because I'm using larger beads. And then we go with the string through the second bead of the last row, from the top to the bottom. There you go. Pull through, and you can see how you've created a hook to hook on your hook to attach your clasp. Now we have to go through, because we want to secure this ring that we've just made with beads. So we're going to again switch the direction of the thread by going under another row, switching direction by going back through the top bead of this row. Here you go. Through another one, the top one, and then we're going to go back through all the beads that we've actually added to this clasp. So we're going to go through the first 3, then there's the 4th, and then there's the ring of the clasp, so make sure that you pick it up, and then the last 3 beads that you've added. So we're just retracing our steps. And that's the ring secured. Now we're going to actually close off our threads because to make this the fringe, as I said at the beginning, we're going to be using a different thread. So we move along the border beads of our triangle, move about to the base. There you go. And once you're coming out, we actually want to make a half hitch knot in between the beads to secure the thread before closing it off. So go back under the thread that connects these two beads. You get a loop, go through the loop with your needle, pull, and this way you've created a knot that is hiding in between these beads. And then we move a few beads over so that we can cut the thread. Try and keep your knots away from the last two rows because we will be passing through very often with the needle in these two rows to make the fringe. So we want to keep them as free as possible. Now we take our scissors and we cut off the thread. Remember that fire line is very resistant, so you have to cut it by keeping it in tension. Otherwise it won't cut nice and clean, but it will fray. And you have to do the same thing to the tail thread so that you have a clean triangle like mine ready to attach a fringe to. So we're gonna go through the thread that connects the two beads where I've stopped my thread. Pull through, get a loop, keep pulling because this thread is long right now. Okay, got a loop, go through the loop, and then pull both on the working thread and on the tail thread to close up the knot, because if you pull only on your working thread, your tail will come out. There you go. Now we're secure. Now we're going to come out from the bottom of the triangle from the first bead, which was actually one of our base beads, because we're coming out from the row made of 7 beads. On one of the two sides, I'm left-handed, so I start off on the left. You can start off on the right, whatever works for you. It's not going to change our work if you start from the other side, because the earring has fringes of different lengths, but they're like mirror image. So the first 3 on each side are exactly the same to each other, and then the center one is just the longest of them all. So let's look at the fringe before we get started. The fringe is composed of 4 colors, as I was saying, and the difference between each fringe that makes the difference in the length is actually just the beginning beads, which are the ones that are the same color as our triangle. So as you can see, we have another triangle that forms at the top of these fringes. So practically, we change the number of beads, of the bronze beads, but we start off with our fringe. So the first fringe, you start off with 1 bead. And the second, you start off with 2 bronze beads. And this is the difference between, because then they become 3 and then 4, and then they shorten up again. So that's the secret to having all the fringes different sizes, because the rest of the fringe is actually exactly identical. And it makes it easier to make them. So I've made a fringe that is pretty easy to make, because I've been thinking about my beginners, because this is a beginner project. Maybe I didn't say it at the beginning, but it's a beginner's project. So let's start adding the first fringe. So as I was saying, you start off by adding just 1 bronze bead. Then you start adding your fringe, and the fringe is composed of 5 beads of each color in the sequence that you've picked, separated by 1 of your base beads. So I'll pick up 5 red beads. Here you can see them. If I don't touch my cam card. There you go. So 5 beads. Then we pick up one of our base beads. Then we pick up 5 of the pink beads, which is the next color up, and I'll pick up already the bronze after that. Here you go. And then we pick up 5 purple beads. And 1 bronze. This is the first group. Now you can see that my fringe is actually very long, and the fringe is actually, the whole earring measures 4 inches in length, including the hook findings. So just so you know. So we're actually making pretty long earrings. You can actually make the fringe shorter. I just liked it this long for the summer because the idea of these earrings is to wear it in long summer hot nights where you have your hair up, you have a nice summery dress, and you just want to show off a nice pair of earrings. So that's the idea. So we're going to have to add on to this fringe. So we just continue. So we do the same thing. We start off again with 5 red beads, then we'll add a bronze, 5 pink, a bronze, 5 purple, a bronze, and we do this another 2 times. Let me just put them on and I'll show you. And I'm actually missing a bronze bead because you want to finish off with a bronze bead. Start with the red, finish off with a bronze because you have a bronze already on the string. You can see it from here. And then add the same number of beads again, please. You can see here that I've added 3 times the same colors. So first group, second group, third group. And this is my whole fringe. Now to finish off your fringe, we actually have to go back through the beads, but this is how you do it. Start from the bottom, skip the last bead, which will be bronze, and go back through all of the beads that compose your fringe. Now, you won't be able to pick them up all together because your needle isn't long enough, so just keep working through them, work through small groups of fringe. Make sure you pick up all the beads that are on the string in the correct order. You don't want to miss a bead. I pick up more or less 7 or 8 beads altogether. There you go. Pay attention that you don't get caught with your thread on anything while you're doing this. The tension we're going to think about at the end. So just pass through the beads. Don't worry about the tension for now. And come out just the first bead that you've added for the fringe. There you go. Now, we want to go through also the bead of the base that we've started off from the bottom to the top. There you go. So right now we have to think about tension. We don't want our fringe to be too tight, otherwise it will start curling and the beads won't lie flat on top of one another, but they will zigzag. So we want the tension to be just right. So we don't want space on top of the first bead of the fringe. You don't want this. You don't want to see the string on top. And we don't want the beads to crisscross on top of each other instead of laying nice and flat. So the problem is getting the tension right. I usually keep my nail in between the first and last first bead of the fringe and the base of the triangle, and I pull with the other hand on the string to tighten it up. And then you just have to play around with the tension by pulling on the working thread and pulling on the last bead to get the tension just right. Now it won't be perfect. I have a little trick up my sleeve to get it perfect. So first thing, once we're satisfied with the tension, we're gonna play around with the thread and have it go around so that each fringe is independent. And if you pull on the second fringe once you've done it, you won't be pulling on the first as well. This helps out as you go along. So how do we do it? We go through the bead on top of the one where we went through the base. So here, see it? My string is here. I go on top. Same direction, so string is going on top. Then I'm going to turn around with my thread. So it's coming up top. I'm going to go through the bead next to it, but I'm switching direction of the thread and I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. I have to switch this around in my hand, or I can't do this, sorry. Now you have to be careful because these beads are nice and tight and you don't want to break them. So this is what I'm doing. You see how my string is coming up? Go back from the top to the bottom on the bead next to it. Pull the thread. Be careful not to get tangled on anything. And then I'm not pulling on this string yet on purpose, so that's why you see the string. And then I'll go through the next bead in the base, the one next to it, which will be the one where we start off our second fringe. There you go. You see how I've gone up and over. And this little trick, instead of going back from one to the next one, but going on top, make sure that the fringe is actually not attached one to another. So then we pull. Loosen it up a bit from the bottom. You have to lose a bit more time on this, but it will pay off in the end. So you have to be sure of your tension on each fringe before you start the next one, because it's going to get harder to fix the previous one if you have another one on top of the string. So once you're happy and look at it both on the mat and off the mat, this is a good tension. You just see a few of these beads that are not laying flat, but that we can fix later. So we're all set to go next to start off with the next fringe. To start off the second fringe, you have to add to your needle 2 bronze beads. So the triangle on top is becoming bigger. 5 red beads and 1 bronze. 5 pink beads and 1 bronze. 5 purple beads and 1 bronze. And have them all go down on the string. There you go. And then we want to add another group of beads starting off with the red. So 5 red, 1 bronze, 5 pink, 1 bronze, 5 purple, and 1 bronze. Do it twice so that you've added all of your fringe. And I'll see you once you come back through the fringe. So I finished my second fringe, and you can see how the second one is kind of tighter because I still haven't fixed the tension on this one. So I've just gone through all the beads, skipping the last one as usual, and going through the second bead of the base. So we'll have 7 fringes, 1 for each bead of the base. And now we'll start pulling again. So I'll put my nail in between. You do need a bit of space in between the fringe, but you don't want too much. So pull, then you pull on the other end of the thing. Okay, once you're satisfied, you can start going around. So I'll go in the bead on top again. There you go. My fringe is still not tight, huh? I have to go around with the string and finish fixing it at the end. Then I go back down through the next one. I'm doing exactly what I did last time. These beads are nice and tight, so you have to wiggle your needle to get through. You can also use thinner needles if you prefer. I don't think it's necessary right now. And then go through the third bead of the base from the top to the bottom of the triangle. There you go. Be careful not to get your string caught on anything. And now you can see that pulling, my first fringe has remained nice and flat, and I'm going to pull slightly on my second one to get it to lie flat next to the first one. Do this not on the mat, but keeping your triangle in one hand and off any surface so that you see how the earring is going to lay once you have it on your ear. It's not going to be perfect. I have a little trick I'll show you later to fix everything once the earring is all set. But the better the job you do now, the better the result at the end, obviously. There you go. This is the good tension. Now we can start off with the third fringe. You start off by adding 3 beads, bronze beads, to get your first triangle on top bigger, and we're getting the fringe longer. And then you add the usual pattern of the 5 red beads, 1 bronze, 5 pink beads, 1 bronze, 5 purple beads, and 1 bronze for 3 times, and you go back through it. So do that fringe and do also the 4th one, which will have 4 beads at the beginning of bronze, and I'll see you once you have to attach the 4th fringe to the earring, because they're all the same. I've continued, and I've added the 3rd and 4th fringe to my earring, as you can see, and the 4th earring falls exactly in the center of our earring, so it's the mirror, and there'll only be 1 of these. This is the longest fringe for the earring, and I've already prepared the 3 beads at the top that will start off my 5th fringe, which will be identical to the 3rd fringe that I've just added. So it will start off with 3, and the next one will have 2 bronze beads at the top, and the last one will have 1 bronze bead at the top, like the first one. So it's mirror image, because we want to form a triangle at the top of your fringe, like this one. So continue adding the other 3 fringes that are missing with the pattern that we've been using. So 5 red beads, 1 bronze, 5 pink beads, 1 bronze, 5 purple beads, 1 bronze, repeated for 3 times in total, other than the 3 bronze bead for the beginning of the fringe. And I'll see you at the end. Here we are. I finished the fringes. I've just passed through the 2 top beads on top of the last one. The last fringe needs to be set in place like the others with the zigzag thread. So not only have I gone 1 and 2, but we have to go back down through the next one, even if we're not going to make another fringe, obviously. So back. And then maybe we come out the one on the bottom of the base without getting any of the fringe beads, because we don't want to go through the back through the fringe. So here you go, just this one. Be careful not to make a knot with your thread. There. And then back through the one on top. We want our thread coming out on top, towards the top of the triangle, on the border beads, because we have to close off the thread. Before we close off the thread, we're going to check again the tension, check that everything is all right. You see how this one is just a bit too tight, so I'll pull it on the bottom so that it loosens up. We don't want it sticking out. If it's too tight, it could stick out this way, so we're just going to pull it slightly. And then once we're satisfied, I'll move a few beads on top again along the border of this triangle. 1. And then I have to pass my needle in between the 2 beads on the border to get the string that's attaching them, because we're going to do a loop. Go through the loop with your knot, pull, and then go through the next bead on the border of the triangle. so that we can hide our triangle. There you go. Come back through. And we can cut the thread. I've actually taken the liberty of cutting my tail thread already because it was bothering me. It doesn't need a knot because we've already knotted it on when we put the thread on. So you can just cut it off. And this is the earring all done. Now you can put back your earring hook and you're all set. Finished your earring, you have to make the second one exactly the same. And once you're done, I have actually a trick that I've been using to set all the fringes in place and be sure that they lay flat. I've been using a jar. You hook up your earring at the top of the jar and then you use some flat rubber bands to keep the fringe in place, making it nice and tight and lying nice and flat, one next to each other, pulling tightly on the fringe as you put the rubber bands on each fringe to keep it in place. I've put actually 4 on this fringe to keep it in place, and I leave it on the jar to set for about a few days. And I usually do a pair on each jar to let it set, not more than a pair of earrings on each jar, because otherwise it becomes not enough tension on the rubber bands to set it essentially. And this is a nice trick to have them lying flat. I've seen the difference between an earring that hasn't been set in this way and just finished off, and I can assure you that it does help with the tension because it just probably pulls on the KO thread and makes it lie nice and flat. The other thing that I suggest is that once you've finished your earrings and they're all set, to always hang them up at home. Don't keep them in a drawer, don't keep them in a bag where they can get tangled, just hang them up so that the fringe can always lie flat and hang so that they don't get pulled or bended, and just keep them nice and flat. Before we finish off the tutorial for today, I wanted to show you a few options. These are the 3 kits that you'll find on the shop, as I told you before. You can also make versions with smaller fringes. For example, this is made with actually round rocailles, so round size 11 beads. I prefer the delicas for making them, but it's a cute idea to see also a smaller fringe, whereas here we were using 9 sets of 5 beads plus the separator bead. Here I've actually used only 6 sets of 5 beads with the separator, and you can see how the fringe comes shorter. So you can shorten or lengthen the fringe as you wish to have different effects. I've also been playing with a few other ideas. This is a different version of the same earring. So the triangle exactly the same. I've just played around with the fringe and how you mix the colors so that you can see that here I've had the colors blending together. And I'll be posting a very short video of how to do the fringe on this earring on our channel next week. So you'll have it to try out. It's another idea. I've made a more complex fringe earring. Here it is, that I've played around with, so it's bigger, has more fringe. The triangle is made up of more than one color, and I've added sparkle to the fringe with some crystals. And this actually comes in a kit. You can find it on our shop already in different colors. I'll show you in just a second the other color options. And with the kit comes a free pattern that explains how to make this version of the earring, and a link to a video that only the people that are buying the kits will have, that will explain to you quickly how to make the triangle and the various fringe. So you have both options. So for people that prefer the written pattern, they have the written pattern, and for people that prefer the video, they'll have the video. So this is another cute idea if you've tried out the simpler version and you want to try something harder. And I'll show you the other 2 colors that I made. This is another version in blue and green using the Duracoat metallic delicas. And this is the last color, very colorful with the orange, the green, and the pink. I think it's perfect for summer. So you'll find all 3 kits available on our shop. That's all for today, bead friends. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Leave any questions or comments that you have below. Remember to sign up to the channel by clicking the bell so that you can know when the next tutorial comes up. As I've said, a new tutorial with a new version of the fringe is coming up. You don't want to miss it. And also you can find already on the shop all the kits for the earrings of today. And the shop is www.happybead.it. I can also suggest 2 other projects with free tutorials that are already online. You can try out our gypsy earrings made with brick stitch on the base of metal, or our Yasmin earrings. Both projects are for beginners. Yasmin are made using tie beads from Miyuki. So this is another 2 options if you liked brick stitch as a stitch. Also remember to follow us on our social media channels. On Instagram, you can find us as Happy Bead Milano. And on Facebook, you can find us as Happy Bead La Fabbrica delle Perline. Until next time, take care and thank you. Bye-bye.